Hi, everybody. Good morning or afternoon. It is 12 o'clock in PST time in San Francisco, and Annica and I are here on day 2 of our streaming mural session. And as you can see, where are we, Annica?
We are in the green room at the Adobe Live Studio, and I was able to get started yesterday with the approved artwork, projected and trace things out on the wall, and excited to chat with you all about how we got here.
Yeah, no, I think Annica here was able to get a lot of stuff done between stream time yesterday and then today, and then can't believe she was able to do all this for us so that today we'll be able to talk about more about projection and then how she traced it onto the wall, and then, you know, a lot of the supply lists were going on. But before we get to that, we kind of just want to do a little recap of what we did yesterday. And then so that, you know, since it is 3 days, you guys, maybe some of you didn't go yesterday and watch this YouTube stream, which you should, and then come back to us with questions. But so what did we do yesterday? Yesterday, we talked about, we first kind of started talking about how we like got into murals using like walls on our houses and our homes or apartments, just to like liven, freshen up everything. And then just how we use that wall to be like, to like start learning about experiences about murals and painting, and like then we were able to expand that. From there, Annica here was able to produce some resource guides for all these new muralists for you, which we will be able to send out to you guys. You'll have PDFs. It talks about the different types of paint that she uses. It talks about the different mediums, right? Like the spray paint, the markers, which markers we'll use now, so you'll actually be able to see it live in action. And then we also talked about, what else did we talk about? How to enlarge it, which we'll get to since you use a projector. But there's different types of way you can trace onto the wall, which was like the grid, the projector, the, oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting, like doodles.
And the pounce pattern.
Pounce pattern.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever do pounce pattern, but you know,
really?
I don't know. It just seems like it feels harder.
Oh, I disagree.
Really?
I disagree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. But is your favorite way, is your favorite way a projector though?
I mean, I paint in a lot of situations where a projector is not possible.
That's true.
So not necessarily. I mean, I definitely started off just with the grid.
Okay.
It was a while before I invested in a projector. It's a big expense, and it doesn't work if you're painting outside.
No, that is true. I will say that I think the grid is the one I use more because I don't own a projector. So that will probably be a big issue. But
it's sort of like I grew up in Boston, and that's where I learned how to drive. And I remember being like nervous driving someplace else. My dad was like, no, you learned how to drive in Boston. You can now drive anywhere. And I feel like if you learn how to do a mural with the grid method, you can do a mural with anything. Like,
okay,
I'd rather start, you know.
Yeah, I think it's good to start with the grid just so you can understand how to transfer from like your digital image up to until like the big screen, and then you'll learn all like about projection and then pounce pattern, doodle grid, and then maybe one day any of you guys will have that like VR set. I mean, that's one of my dreams to be able to do that. But that was all in yesterday's stream. So feel free to click a link, rewatch it. It's 2 hours of us talking. You'll get more of us. You guys can't get enough of us right now. And then now we're going to move on to a lot of the supply lists. I think a lot of people ask about what do we need? Like what do we need to make a mural out here? So here I am. Annica supplied you guys with a supply list that's going to be in the link, thrown in the chat or even distributed on social media at some point. And then I'm going to read through it, and she'll show you some of the products that she's using currently now. And then yeah. So like on a supply list, we have the first set, which is like the setup space.
Yes.
Yeah. Which happens to be tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see, where is... Cool. Not sure where my tape went. Oh, look at that. Amazing. Ta-da.
Thank you.
All right. So this brand is called Frog Tape. And I used to always use the blue painter's tape, but I've been using frog tape for a while. It seems to come off a little bit easier. It seals a little bit better. When you are taping off an area, I recommend you sort of like push it down gently with your thumb once it's on the wall to make sure that you don't get so much bleed through. But you might get a little bit of bleeding, so be prepared to go back and touch up some edges. But I do like this stuff. It's definitely a mural favorite.
So I think like I feel like this is a question for all interior painting in general. When do you take off the tape? Do you take it off when it's wet, or do you take it off when it's dry? Because I feel like that's always like a big question for people, and myself.
Yeah. I don't feel
trick?
like I know the answer to that question.
Oh, I also have another question. I'm sorry.
I usually just take it off at the end,
Okay.
but I'd be
Because
curious
would it
to
ever
know.
peel off any of the paint that like, what if it's like layered a little bit or drippy on it? Like would it ever peel off the paint from the bottom? I think that's because I was also very inexperienced when I just did regular painting, and I just like layered it on the bottom. So it had like a big goopy mess in the bottom.
Yeah, you want to use probably like the thinnest, flattest layer of paint to start off with first, going over tape.
Got it.
But yeah, I do tend to pull it off at the end. You just want to make sure whatever you're putting the tape down on is dry.
Oh, okay. Good.
Because if it's a little bit wet and you pull it off, you might be pulling off the paint that's underneath.
Got it. Oh, and then one thing. Do you like your tape short pieces or like long pieces?
As long as it's humanly possible.
Yeah.
Just
I
like
learned
when
that the
I'm
hard
pulling
way.
a stroke, whether it's with a marker or a brush, it's as long as you can go in one stroke, it's just going to give you the nicest, cleanest line. There's nothing more annoying than trying to like pick up and put down your brush in the exact same place.
Oh,
It's getting
get it.
getting wonky.
I know. And then you now have drop cloths or paper.
Yeah. So I tend to bring rolls of paper on site with me. That seems to be the easiest.
Yeah.
Definitely prefer that to like, I have some heavyweight canvas drop cloths and they're cumbersome.
Yeah.
And they're also covered in paint. So it's a little hard to tell, is that new paint? Is that old paint? If I step in that paint and then I walk on the part of the floor that doesn't have the drop cloth, am I going to be tracking the paint with me? So I prefer clean paper.
Got it. And it's like the craft brown paper
Yep.
or something that you can get like at a Home Depot. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
You can get pretty narrow ones too. You can
really?
get just like a 1 foot wide one. You don't have to show up with like a
I don't know. For me, I feel like I'm a little bit of a accident prone.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. You never know. You never know.
It's true.
There's always something that comes up. Okay. And then we have gloves.
Yep. You know, blue gloves.
Oh, yeah. You don't like paint on your hands?
I prefer not to. I mean, you absorb stuff through your skin.
Yeah, I know. I don't think I do that, but maybe I should
through your
do.
eyes. So, yeah, whatever protection you can put on.
We have a step ladder.
Yeah.
We all know that's for short people.
Yes.
Or just reaching on tall places.
Yeah.
I do know that some people have suggested like almost like a platform ladder, which is kind of cool.
Platforms are real nice.
Yeah.
If you need to paint up high, and you're going to be moving back and forth, you're either dragging that 6 foot tall ladder, that 8 foot tall ladder, and then going up a couple steps, painting, going down, moving. It's like, it is such a workout. It's such an incredible workout on like, my calves are always sore. Anyway, if you can be standing on a flat rolling scaffolding, you can rent these things from, your local hardware store or someplace like Sunbelt Rentals. You can usually do rentals from, and it can make a big difference. You can get your job done so much faster if you have rolling scaffolding and you're working up high.
That's great. I feel like that's another topic of discussion later when we talk about like bigger murals and using that.
Yeah.
So we'll track that for later when we actually go down to mural line. And then you have the background touch-up paint.
Oh yeah. Just, in case your markers, I'm not saying this happened here already today, but I'm not saying it didn't happen here already today. If your marker explodes and say drips all the way down the wall, you're going to want to make sure you have the background paint. So if you show up for a job site and the background wall has been painted already and you're just layering the artwork on top of it instead of repainting the entire thing to begin with, always make sure you ask for the background paint that was used.
That is a must, everybody.
Yep.
That is a must. I do a lot of touch-ups with background paint, so I think it's always good to have a can in hand. All right. So we got the setup space already. Now we have the sketch on wall. So what are the all the stuff that you need to sketch on wall? You have yardstick.
Yeah, it sort of depends what method you're going for. If you're doing the grid method, I would say you want to show up with the yardstick and the chalk line, the snap chalk line that we talked about yesterday.
Snap chalk line, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. And then you have printouts.
I always like to bring printouts of the artwork so that you have like a quick reference.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got things like, if you've sketched in an outline and you don't know what color goes where, having that printout right in front of you, and you can put it in like a plastic protector sleeve, I would recommend, because it will get wet, it will get dirty, may get lost.
Yeah.
So I bring multiple printouts. I'll bring like maybe 2 or 3.
I do. We have talked about making sure you check your color too. So I think having a printout, and then what I've done and what I've seen other muralists do is that they'll take a little touch of the paint and put it on the actual printout. And like write the actual name of the actual paint color.
Yes.
And then just so that you can like figure out what colors work best, or like if it actually matches as best as a printout. At least that's what I do. I think in another mural that I did on the behind it, I would be like, oh, this flower, because I do a lot of florals. This flower is this color, which happens to be that. So it helps keep everything like aligned, and just like you have almost like that all the information in front of you, instead of being like, oh, this red was for one of these things. So I think I like using that printout, and I have multiple, because sometimes it's windy and it flies away too.
Sure does.
Yeah. Happened before. Okay. So then also you have charcoal for chalk. Yeah. More chalk. And charcoal.
Chalk and vine charcoal. So I was describing vine charcoal yesterday. This is soft vine charcoal. I actually got extra soft. This says extra soft on it. And it leaves behind, if you can have a really light touch, it leaves behind a line that's really easy to wipe off. I'm going to show you just with this, like it comes off pretty nice. It doesn't come off entirely. You're going to paint over it. But nonetheless, I like to use it as light as is humanly possible. And I also like to make sure that my lines are, maybe we'll talk about this more with the projector, but I want to use as few lines as is humanly possible, so that I have less touching up to do later.
That's fair. That makes sense. And we'll get more into that once you're tracing all the tracing stuff in the stream when we get down to the mural.
Sounds good.
Okay, so now it's like paint materials. You have paint markers.
Yep.
You have paint key to open, which is the thing to open up the canisters, which I always like buying a lot of.
It's a paint key.
Let me tell you, that gets lost everywhere, at least for me.
You can put it on your keychain while you're painting.
That's true.
I definitely find that helpful. But yeah, I've got a million of them. So like these things and stirring sticks, you can't have enough of.
I also use chopsticks.
Yeah.
I think chopsticks are great because when you had the little sample boxes or sample items that are like just from Home Depot that I use, it's like because a yardstick or one of those bigger sticks, it's like half the size of it, and you're like, okay, I can't move it back and forth. So I think chopsticks are really good in my which is I guess a stirring stick in general. Paint trays, obviously, rollers. And I think we talked about rollers and types of rollers in your guide about like the different types of nap sizes. Yeah. And like when to use the nap sizes for inside or outside. A roller extension pole.
Yeah. If you need to be getting up high, again, like if you're priming the entire background of a wall pink, you don't want to be up on a ladder just doing this. You want to be able to stay down on the ground, save your energy, be able to move around more freely. So get an extension pole and do as much as you can from one spot.
Got it. That makes sense. And then we have brushes. We also talked about that yesterday about the different type of brushes.
So I have one of these things to carry my brushes in, which I have clearly kept very good care of. Definitely have never let an entire gallon of yellow paint open up on it. But I like to keep just sort of like a really wide array of brushes, especially if I'm not exactly sure what the surface of the wall is going to be like when I get there. I have some softer round ones that I might use. I have some stiffer ones that would be good for like an outdoor mural.
With more texture?
Yeah, more texture on the wall. This would be helpful.
learned that one.
Something like this would be nice for covering up if I need to do some touch-ups with the background paint and I want it to lay pretty thin and flat. Or if I'm doing lettering, these brushes are really nice for lettering because they're so square on the top.
Got it. And these are just like typical brushes you get like at an art store?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing particularly fancy. And then, you know, for the most part, I tend to use, I mentioned this yesterday, just like a 1.5 inch chisel
No.
edge brush from the hardware store.
Yes.
Like one of those purdy brushes. And my new favorite for outdoor murals and indoor too is Zebra.
Yeah.
Zibra. Zebra
yeah.
brushes.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are phenomenal.
Also the same. And then let's see. We have cups for paint.
Yep. Save all of your cups from your coffee shop.
Is it, do you put paint into it or you wash your brushes out in them?
Oh, I tend to put paint in it.
Oh,
and so like
interesting.
as I'm doing this with when I'm painting with when I have my paint in here, I palette around the edge as I'm going.
Okay.
And then once I've gone all the way around the cup and it's all sort of, the paint gets kind of gummy, I'll pour whatever's in here in a new cup and start again.
Okay.
So I go through a lot. Even if I'm like using one color the whole time, I'll go through like 4 or 5 cups just because I'm doing this to like keep the paint out of the bottom of the bristles.
Yeah. Because we talked about keeping them out at the bottom. Yeah.
And getting it so it's not so so heavy and drippy.
Yeah. I actually use like old Chinese containers that you get from takeout.
Yeah.
Because then I also find myself that
big.
like, what?
That feels big.
It does feel big.
Okay.
But I also do I think I do bigger florals and stuff like that. So I always need it. And then I'll want to save some extra paint that I custom did. Like if I add like a white to it.
Yeah.
Right. And then I want to make a lighter shade of my red.
Yeah.
And then have that. It'll be there. So
Takeout containers are great for that.
yes. Takeout containers is the same thing. So I think that's good.
Like a soup container with the plastic
Yes.
lid that goes
Yes.
fits right back on it. I have a lot of those.
Exactly. So I use that a lot for all my paintings, especially then I can save it.
Yes. And tip that I don't do enough of is write on the top of the can or the container what job you used it for.
Yes.
Because if you need a quick reference or if someone needs a touch up or something, you're like, well, not sure which can of paint came to that job. So anything that you can label for future reference in the future is good.
Yes. I love a good cup to hold the paint. That's been one of the things that I have. So you have a cup for brushes. Cup for brushes. And I have a question for this. Do you keep I know some murals keep like a brush of like wet water.
Yeah. So I'll just use like a iced coffee plastic cup.
Okay.
There are like more heavyweight ones that sometimes I use for bigger brushes, but if it's just small brushes, it's just,
got it.
I'm always hoarding people's cups. I'm like, oh, I see. When you're done with that coffee, do you mind if I just take it?
Yeah. You're reusing. That's great.
Yeah.
Not wasting. And then we have spray paint caps.
Spray paint and caps. If you've decided to use spray paint for your job, you're also going to want to make sure you bring a respirator.
I feel like this is a whole different thing.
Yeah. And even if you don't mind wearing them, some sort of eye protection. Because again, there's so much airborne stuff that you don't want stuff getting in your eyes. You don't want it getting in your lungs.
Yes.
You don't want it getting in through your skin.
Yeah.
We're in it for the long haul.
All right. And so then the final part of the supply list you have are your rags, obviously clean up kind of stuff.
I know it's weird to have a favorite kind of paper towel, but these blue paper towels from the hardware store, feel this. They're they're very sturdy. They're almost like a rag. I cut up old t-shirts.
Yeah.
Clothes that my kid has trashed to the point where I can't pass them on to anyone else. I tend to cut stuff up and use it as rags too.
Got it. I also do, what are these called? I know other people do them, but they're almost like wet wipes, but for paint. I think they're called like Gorilla something. And then it's really good to wipe up paint when it's it's still wet and then, or on the floor and you're like, whoa, so you don't have to use a paper towel and then find water and then do that, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I also use that. I always think that they're fun to use. Then you have water, clearly.
Yep.
Plastic bags and trash bags.
I use plastic bags to wrap around my rollers so that they don't get dried out if I might want to, if I need to go back and touch something up or anything like that. So I definitely wrap my rollers in plastic bags. If I'm someplace where I can't wash out my brushes easily, you do the best that you can, but then you got to keep them wet until you get to a place where you can properly clean them.
Yeah. I have a thing of saran wrap.
Oh, nice.
Which I use. And then I actually heard foil also was like
Really?
an option. I don't know. I tried it out one time with a roller and I'm like, well, I guess it does the same thing. But I feel like I have to do more testing. Although it's fine. Anyway, so any plastic bags
Sounds
keep
like it
the
might
moisture.
leak.
Yeah.
Like
probably.
you can't put that in anything.
No. I think it's more just for like, if it's like a
On-site.
hot day, you
Yeah.
want to cover it or something. And so it doesn't dry out maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Anyway, something to think about. Yes, it gets very messy, Ryan. And then, so then that's it about the supply list.
Yes.
So we
I do
went
have
through
trash
everything.
bags on there. Not every job
trash
site.
bags. Yeah.
Not every job site you go to is going to have a sturdy trash
That's
bag.
fair.
And if you're throwing away stuff that has paint on it, the last thing you want is stuff to be leaking. Or if you're painting outside, you might not have access to a trash can. So
That is fair.
some heavy duty trash bags are also good for cleanup.
That's fair. I'll say like water bottle too. Sometimes there's no way to get a water in there.
Yes. That's a key thing to figure out. If you're going to be painting outside, will you have access to water? Do you need access to water? And that may even be a deciding factor between, do you want to use spray paint or do you want to use brushes?
Yeah. And I feel like we'll get down to this one too. Like we have a few questions about having like indoor and outdoor Mural, and being like very cognizant of like what wall you're going to use or paint on, and see like what are the challenges for each of them.
Yeah.
But we went through all our supply lists that we have here. And then now we're going to go on to more fun stuff. So thanks for staying with us. And we will have the supply list resource guide for you guys in the link that will be shared with you through the chat potentially, or definitely through the social media.
Do we want to talk about the projector?
Yes, we are going to talk about the projector that is next up. And we're going to show you guys her awesome projector, FYI, and then how she kind of, went about projecting.
Yes. So for this job, I have been wanting to invest in a short throw projector. We talked about this yesterday. There's a lot of projector options out there right now because so many people are doing, watching TV at home this way, or they're doing gaming this way. And I feel like there's so many more options than when I got my first projector. And something that I've been seeing a lot of is a short throw projector. In my mind, short throw projector was going to be small. And I'm not exactly sure how I made up that story in my mind. I was like, short throw, small distance, short, small. Anyway, when it arrived and it was this big, I was a little overwhelmed. And I thought, not sure I'm going to keep that because this is going to be a beast to show up with or to travel with to, say, San Francisco or to any other job site. But then I was like, all right, let me set up my 2 projectors in my bedroom at home and give it a test and see, like, all right, it's wild. It's wild what it can do. It is just, from only maybe 6 feet away in this room, it filled this entire wall, which is 12 feet wide and 8.5 feet high.
Uh-huh.
No problem. I was also able to put it on the floor. And with my old projector, it was like, you need an extra ladder so that it can be up high enough.
Got it.
And this was, I think, about $600.
Okay.
So for me, I'm like, okay, I've now committed to making sure I do at least 6 murals this year so I can like spread that cost out. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's worth it. Mm-hmm. Or if you have other friends that you paint with sometimes, like you can just share the purchase.
Yes.
Which I've definitely done in the past for some of these like larger ticket items that you don't use on the regular.
Yeah.
I'm also curious. I've heard stories about some public libraries where you can rent projectors.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Haven't looked into it. I don't think they have like the newest short throw projectors, but if you want to see what it's like to project, if you're doing something in your home, like check out and see if there's any place local that you can rent a projector from.
Yeah.
But big fan of just also like sharing within the community. I've definitely lent out my projector before many times. And and would continue to do it again. So you can always ask around, give it a try. And then if you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm doing enough murals that I'm ready to own my own.
I want to share with everybody how careful you were with this projector.
Yeah.
Like, we came from New York area, and she used this as her personal item to bring in onto the plane. She also did not have check-in, by the way. And I'm like, I don't know how you were able to have this as your personal item and then have live the rest of the week. But I thought it was pretty awesome. So it's great.
I couldn't risk it being thrown around
That's
because there's a lens in here. The lens is a pretty intense monster. But one thing that you do want to look into, and I described this yesterday, is keystoning.
Yes.
When you get a projector, you're going to want something that has keystoning, which are, I can show the buttons on this one. They're like these buttons here where you're just changing the skew of it, and it makes a big difference.
I'm sure. Like, you want to make sure if it's at an angle that it'll be able to go straight, right? That's what. We do have some people on the chat. I would say, first, hi, Jess. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jess.
Welcome. And then you did ask what materials you're painting with. Funny, we do have a resource guide about what materials and what are we using that is linked on the chat right now that you'll be able to download. And then also, if you go into yesterday's stream, we also go into more conversations about what we paint with, what she paints with, how to transfer the image onto the walls, which right now we're using a short throw projector.
Yeah.
And then I think Ryan asked a question that I cannot find where he wanted to know the model of the projector.
Oh, sure.
There it is.
Okay. It is a ViewSonic PS502W.
Yeah, got
Do you
that
want
right
to
up
put
here.
that in the chat?
We can put that. Can I type that in the chat, or can someone will type that in the chat?
I think you can type that in. Okay. Just kidding. ViewSonic PS502W.
Sonic PS502.
502W.
There you guys go. There it is.
I got it from B&H Photo, and it arrived in 1 day.
Oh,
1 day.
excellent.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, also, as you know, this is a new setup. So we're working through a few things here, but I think this is so fun and exciting, and I'm really digging it. Although I sometimes have to look at where I'm going. Anyway, okay. So then you projected
Yes.
everything on here.
Yeah.
And then you were able to trace it. Can you talk about the tracing, like when it projected?
Yeah.
Like, where in the line do you project?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew that this was going to be done in a mono weight. So everything was going to be the same weight. I didn't need to do the outside edge and the inside edge of the stroke. So if the stroke, was 1/2 inch wide, I just did a single line in the center because there was no need to sort of show the bounds of that.
Yeah. So if this is about 1/2 inch, and so you basically,
I just drew a line in the center.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
Again, that's to minimize the amount of cleanup that you're going to have at the end, touch up that you need to do. And it also sort of, means that there's less of this that's mixing with your paint, which is not a big deal, but it's not ideal. I'll use white chalk if it's a darker wall, and I'll use vine charcoal if it's a lighter wall. I also I put a bunch of X's in here in some places, and the X's to me indicate that's going to be filled solid black.
Oh, okay. That's smart.
Because I did not bring the printouts that I recommended bringing. So I
didn't follow your guide, man.
I need these. I didn't have it when I got ready for this trip. It's anyway, so those indicate to me that something is going to be filled solid black, and everything else I know is just an outline.
That is smart. That is thinking.
But
Good
to
thinking.
your point earlier about using different colors and
Yes.
stuff on a job,
Yes.
I mean, that might be a really smart thing while the projector is on to take just a little sample of the paint on your finger
Yeah.
and like tap what's going to be what color actually on the wall. So
Yeah.
that when you go back to do that. I don't know if that's the best idea because then.
I'm not sure. I also have seen, I think, and I don't know if it was because it was a community mural, but they almost did like a paint by numbers
Yeah.
where like you put like, 5 and 5 indicates red. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm thinking of red right now, but like red. So then everywhere you see a 5 instead of the X is where you do
Yeah.
red. So I think it's nice because
Yeah.
once you get into a lot of colors, I feel like it gets very confusing. I'm like,
Sure.
oh, I'm using stiletto red on this one instead of red orange or, like
Yeah.
red cherry. I'm like, oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
I think the more detail you have, the more pre-planning that you can do
Yeah.
so that like it's very easy to get in the zone while you're painting and you just zone out and you're just doing literally exactly what's there. So
Yeah.
this whole idea, like I was describing this yesterday, this idea of, oh, well, I did this sketch and it's pretty close and, I'll do it much better when I actually paint it. No, you're doing
No.
it exactly the way it is because you're not stepping back. Oh, that is a good thing to actually mention about when you're working so large. It's important to take a step back once in a while and see how things are looking.
Mm-hmm.
For a number of different reasons. Like number one, it's very easy to like hyper focus on like wanting things to be perfect from this distance.
Yeah.
But no one's appreciating your mural from this distance. People are appreciating it from the other side of the room. They're like, maybe they're walking across the sidewalk. Like they are not, or across the street. They're not like up with their face in it. So it's also good to be like, well, take a step back, see how it looks from a normal person distance, and maybe you are done.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think we're going to talk about almost like thinking through when you start designing for a mural, just kind of like the challenges and things to consider, which is like the distance and like if it's going to be a high traffic, high viewable area and stuff like that. I think that makes sense. And then we have something from Becky. Do you paint by color or area by area?
I tend to do color.
I also tend to do color.
Yeah.
I think when you have that red paint, you're like, well, what areas in the other mural have red paint, so you don't have to keep closing it. And then the thing is like brushes. It's like I don't want to have to like clean the brush all the time, or like I want to be able to use that same brush so that I can like just be like done with it almost.
Yeah.
I know there's a big thing about like if you have like highlights and shadows, you want to work at a different way. I think we'll also probably have to get down to this when we talk about colors once we start this. But like, I think you want to do the lightest, maybe the shadow first and then the main and the highlight. But like, you know what? I'm not the right person to ask for this. So maybe we'll just have a more discussion about this later. Or if anybody on the chat knows about this and how you do more of the more complex murals, if you guys are experienced in that, like feel free to chime in. But I know there's like different ways that muralists do different types of colors, and color by color is one, and then once you get in the highlights and the shadows, it can be a little bit more challenging in my opinion. But that's almost similar to like anything that you add more than like 2 colors could be a little bit more challenging, right? So
Yeah.
and then also is more cost,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So, but yeah, no, I think if anyone has questions about how to project onto the wall or anything else, like feel free to add it in chat. This is more of like a ask questions as we go. And if you have anything, and no question is bad, there's always good questions. That's what I think. So I think we're ready to roll.
So I'm going to share what I'm using today. So I'm using these crink markers. There's a lot of different options out there. I particularly like crink because I really love how it coats, and I also am just obsessed with the shape of this. So a lot of these have a chisel tip on the end, which is really great. But this is going to be good for fine detail and pretty much just fine detail. And this one has a perfectly round tip. And this will give you, number one, I wanted my design to have like round edges at the end of all of the strokes. So already I'm saving a lot of time by using something that comes like this. I like that even with pressure, you get very little variation in it. So it really is a nice monoline. And one of the things that I like most about these is that they're a little glossy.
Oh, okay.
It's a little glossy, and I love that contrast against like a satin finish of a background. And maybe this comes from like my sign painting experience. Sign painters paint is incredibly high gloss, and I love painting on a like more matte background and then painting the like hyper glossy letters. It's like, I don't recommend a hyper glossy background, but ooh, like things just look they almost look sticker like in a way. And then when you can get like brush stroke texture looking like a sticker or you know, like with that sort of quality to it, it just feels special and different. So I like the quality of the paint on these a great deal. They also coat very well.
That's great. And these are Crink, if anyone is asking.
It's a New York-based company, and these are great for virtually any surface. They can go on glass, they can go on metal. So they certainly will go just fine.
And then if it's on glass, you just like, if you want to like take it off, you scrape it off. Is that
to be honest, I haven't tried to take the Crink off glass.
Okay.
With one shot, sign painter's paint, you can use a flat razor to take it off, but I haven't tried this in that way.
Well, I haven't used paint markers or markers like this besides like Posca, which I just do on like, I just doodle with more so. I haven't done it on like a wall, use any of this type for a wall stuff. So I'm excited to see.
Yes.
I mean, actually, we were able to start a little bit.
Yes, we did get started. I do want to see if there's a brush that I could show. Like if I were to try and do this with a brush instead, I'm sort of curious if I have something that would be what I might use. I mean, I think I would use one of the zebra brushes, which I didn't bring.
I was thinking that the zebra like triangle or even, because I feel like that one has like a nice fine line.
Yeah, you can get a really good mono line with a zebra brush.
Yeah.
So forget it. That's what I would use. Nothing in here. All right. So while I get started on the mural, do you want to continue just chatting a little bit about your mural experience? We can answer any questions as they come in, and you all can watch some of this magic appear before your eyes.
So I will say that right now, Onyx is going to get started on this mural. We're all very excited. And right now it's going to be more of a conversation. So feel free to ask anything on the chat. I have a few questions that I'm going to ask and just kind of like, I'm just going to be here, be in the moment. I would say that there's a few questions that were asked previously, and I'd love to know about the process. I should have probably read that a little bit earlier, but let me just go with a few questions right now. So like right now, she already did preemptively. Annica already just like did a little bit of the left side of the mural, and with her Crink kind of like bottle paint. And right now you only did like one pass on most of them. Like how many passes of paint would you say you need for this?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to do just 2. And, you know, something that I've noticed both with the markers and with some paint is that there's this like awkward window of time where if you're trying to do a second coat and things aren't quite dry yet and you touch it with a brush or you touch it with the marker, it like picks back up what's already there, which is the exact opposite of what you would like to have happen. So either you should be doing like 2 coats right at the same time, like go out and go back, or you wait a few minutes for it to be dry enough and then you keep going.
Because the paint dries fairly quickly.
Sure. I mean, any acrylic paint is going to dry pretty quick.
Especially in the heat.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that much. So watch out for your brushes. I will say that, I think to one of the questions where you like paint, I paint by colors. So like I'll do like one pass of like one flower and then do another color and do all that color from one pass, because then I want to do a second layer. right, on it, because you'll see some of like the background details, or if it's like a really textured wall, you'll see kind of like the little weird like popcorn stuff. Um, and so I think that then you can get to your second color and be able to fill that in while that dries, so that then you can go back by the time you're done your second color to repaint the second coat. Or another option is to do everything in one coat and then do everything in another coat. It just kind of depends how you feel. Some people kind of like the idea of like finishing kind of like a specific object, you know, like if I'm doing like one flower and I have 5, some people like doing like finishing the one flower because it has like some kind of like goal, you know, like that you can like check off the list, like, oh, I did like one flower. And then the other one is some people just like doing like the one color pass and be like, cool, I got my reds done, like awesome, like now I can move on to another thing. So I think it depends on how you like doing it, and once you start diving into the mural world, you'll figure out what works best for you.
You also want to think a little bit about like how layering is going to work. So not every single edge that you paint with a brush is going to have to be super clear and super crispy. So if you have 2 colors that you're painting that are going to butt right up against each other, you would want to paint the color that coats better second, and you can be sort of a little loose and fast and loose with the first color if you know you're going to paint over it. So if I'm doing a solid color fill, you remember one of the options for the colorways for this had like a red in it?
Yes.
So I would have done the red first everywhere, multiple coats of the red until it's totally solid, knowing that these markers are going to contain every single edge and make it crispy. So I'm going to not worry so much about my red coming exactly up to the edge.
Yeah.
The red might bleed out, and I know that I'm going to cut back in with the black on top of it.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to think about where colors are at in your layering process, and if you can cut back in with something.
Yes. I will say, like, speaking of colors, like, and speaking of red, it's very interesting because like red and is one of those colors in, I feel like, the painting world that does not have good coverage.
True.
And you have to fill it, you have to layer it multiple times. At least that's in my experience. And sometimes I feel like I should never design something that has the color red in it again, because it will not have full coverage. And then I don't know if that's from your experience too.
Yeah.
But
Reds
that
can be tough.
Reds can come. And I will also say, like, yellows have been a big challenge of mine.
Yeah.
So like sometimes when I do flowers, and obviously in the middle you try to like fill it in, but like maybe like I went too far into the leaf going into the, I don't know, what is the circle called again? The circle of a flower. Oh my gosh. Anybody know what the circle of that flower is? Anyway, sometimes you go too far in, and then you're like, oh, I'll just cover it with the yellow. No, you don't cover it with the yellow, because yellow is so transparent, at least from my experience, that I can never get good coverage. That I actually have to do almost like that whitewash,
Yeah.
where I take a white paint after it's dry and like paint over the like overlay of the stroke, and then I'll paint it over with the yellow or that lighter color, because there was like no way I would ever get full coverage on a yellow. And that has been also, since I use florals a lot, a big problem that I have, that I always need to kind of remember when I'm painting. But I don't know, has anyone on ever had, even if you're not a muralist, but even if you just paint in general, has been in like colors that you've realized that don't have good coverage? I think ones that do are green. I really like green.
Yeah, like a teal in particular with like some white in it. Definitely like a minty color.
Yeah,
Minty
yeah.
green.
I feel like greens, they're just good, like good coverage overall.
The yellows are sort of the bane of my existence, because the mural project that I run, You Are Not Alone Murals, we have a specific color palette. So all of the murals that are part of the project all say the phrase "You are not alone" in any language, but everyone has to use the same color palette, and only the color palette of black, white, gray, and yellow. And I just forever regret that decision. But now there's 140 murals that are that color palette, and we're not changing it. But the first couple of ones that I painted all had like a black background and yellow lettering on top. And after painting 5 coats of yellow on one wall, I was like, nope, new plan. I'm going yellow background, black lettering, done. It's like your yellow ends up looking very green and disgusting.
I did talk
black.
about colors a bit, and like one of my questions to you, and I think maybe someone else has asked about it, like why do you pick the colors you pick for a mural? Like not, like that has nothing to do with maybe the company or the client colors. Maybe it's like a personal one, or also like why did you pick those 2 colors for You're Not Alone? 2 separate colors, but
Yeah, I mean, You Are Not Alone was inspired by my best friend wrote a memoir about living with anxiety disorder, and it's called I Don't Want to Be Crazy. And the book cover is a yellow background with black lettering on it. So that's where that came from. I also just really like that yellow is a color of caution. It's also the color of like every emoji. So I feel like it's got some emotional pull to it. But how would I choose colors for a mural?
similar to like let's go with your like living room.
Yeah.
Like I love it. If you guys go to Annica's page, Instagram page, you'll see her living room has like the abstract peonies. No, not peonies. Poppies. Yes, another P1. And I love it. It's beautiful. It's bold. It's organic. And I'm like I want to live there right now. Anyway, so what made you choose those colors? Also, like, and I have this issue, like, how did you know that it worked together? Because sometimes I feel like when you're in the digital world, you'll have like, oh, these colors vibrate too much together, or it's not as like bold. And I feel like when you go into the paint world, it's you just like kind of think differently with it versus when you're on the digital platform. But anyway, go for it.
I mean, I definitely played with a million color combos first in Illustrator. So I'll bring everything in for whatever reason. I like recoloring things in Illustrator, but sometimes Photoshop.
Oh, it's great.
And so I played with a ton of different color combos. And then, if I'm going to be totally honest, the colors that I was pulling in were the colors of leftover paint that I had in my studio.
Oh,
and I'm like, well, what are my options for background color? Which ones do I have a gallon of? I think I ended up buying a different pink for the background because I didn't have enough. The pink that I had wasn't enough, but I mixed that red from reds I already had. I mixed the blue from blues I already had.
Really?
And I labeled them with living room and put them back when I was done. Because I for sure see something happening to that one day. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is like what's on hand. There's plenty of places where you can go and pick up salvaged paint. I mean, there's no need to, especially if you're doing a personal project, there's no need to reinvent stuff or spend more money than you have to.
Yeah.
So paint that I already have is a big question.
I mean, after doing all the murals, do you keep all the paint that you did murals for?
Like for client stuff?
Yeah.
If they don't want it, sure. Sometimes they want to keep it in case they have touch-ups or anything.
Got it.
Some clients don't have any interest in it.
Yeah.
In which case it comes to my
Back
studio.
Home. Yeah, I feel as most of the time, I mean, I haven't done many. I've done a lot more private, but most of the time it's me that takes back. And so now I have all this extra paint that I'm like, well, what do I do with it?
Well, I mean, oftentimes, if you're me, you keep it for 10 years and then you decide, is this paint still good? And if it is still good, let's come up with a project today.
I know. Wade talk to us about salvaged paint.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know in your town what options there are, but in Brooklyn, there's a place called Build It Green. And you can go and get opened sometimes or extra paint. So sometimes there's places that have like Home Depot might have mixed colors or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But I do like, I mean, I don't know what one would search to find their local salvaged paint place, but Build It Green in Brooklyn is fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. I do know like there's some local groups that like almost like you talked about this how you are always on like Buy Nothing.
I love Buy
Buy Nothing
Nothing.
is a great group, FYI, if you ever want to be on Facebook and try to find stuff for free.
Yeah. Or
Or
stuff that you've been hanging on to out of
yes.
guilt because you're like, it's still good. But just to be able to be like, can you just take it away?
Yes.
Can you just
Yes.
take it away and do something with it? And then I don't have to have it anymore.
But I've seen a lot. I've seen a few like paints that were used, especially when you're just like getting samples, and
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of people like like when I painted my room, my hallway, which I did a mural on. When I painted it green, I was like, I did a lot of test paints and like did little swatches on my wall to see what looked best in the dark and the light, just because like it varies
Very good. Point.
drastically, especially when my lights, the overhead lights versus like the sunlight versus like
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure it looked good in all levels, and that's also when you take things in consideration. But I tested like the dark greens because I didn't want them to look too black. But
Yes.
if the light cast more yellow, then it kind of looked more black, and I was like, oh, but I wanted something a little bit more greener. Anyway, now I have like several different shades of green in my garage. So if you guys need green, I do have that there. But I like the fact that you reused a lot of the paint, and I feel like I really want
Totally.
to find a place in my house for that. And I
Yeah.
think we did talk about yesterday, and our whole like kind of like goal is to like about this thing is about the stream is that everyone has a place to make a mural, and we talked about even if you're renting or if you own a home, you are able to make your own mural. And then if you don't like it or you don't want to keep it, you can paint over it. It's not you don't need to find somebody to like pay you to make a mural. Like I think at first like you want to build up the experience and learn all the little like nuances of painting. I think Annika and I both had done home murals to really get a little bit more experience and to learn more about it and to play around with different types of like styles and aesthetics if you like it. And
Yes.
then it's a good place. So you're not, it's like for you too, right?
Yeah. I mean, that living room mural has no lettering in it. I don't know if you noticed, but there's no lettering in there.
Yeah, there is no lettering.
No one's paying me to do murals that don't have lettering.
Yeah.
It's mostly what I've been known for. So in order to start putting other stuff out there where I might start getting more gigs is, you need references to share. And yeah, I'm not waiting around for someone to be like, could you paint a floral mural? Person with no floral murals in your portfolio? Like, yes, I can.
That is. It's funny. It's I was actually looking at Jess, Women of Type, Chick of All Trade. One of her stories was like, and she was like asking questions, and it was, and I think one of the answers was like paint for what or draw what you want to. Oh my gosh, Jess, I really hope you're on there. But it was like do something that you are passionate about, or like draw something that you're passionate about. Like if you want to work
Yeah.
with, like for her, if you want to work with the WNBA, post stuff and do stuff about the WNBA. So if you want to be a muralist, get some walls, get some paint on it, and then do that. If you
Yeah.
want to do lettering, do a lettering mural. If you want to do flowers, do a flower mural.
Yes.
Like I started out with florals. I'm really big into plants. I'm really big into flowers. And I did my hallway as my first thing. And it wasn't to be a muralist at the end of the day. It was something like, I want to make my house
Yeah.
like special. I want to do something unique. I wanted something that is all about my personality. So I picked florals and botanicals to do in my hallway. And you can check it out on my Instagram. But it's like pinned or something. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, it was so awesome to paint and to like just cathartic as you guys are looking at her, it like, you ever go on those like videos or down Instagram and you just like watch people paint or just like watch people mix color? It's just, there's something about it.
Ooh, the color mixing one.
Oh, the color mixing one's
I
great.
love
I just
those.
go down that hole and I'm like, oh my gosh, what else can we make? What other stuff?
I mean, in all honesty, I grew up watching Bob Ross paint
Yes.
on PBS. And in fact, like I was most excited when my parents definitely were slow to adopt new technology. And when we finally got a VCR, the thing I was most excited for was that then I could record Bob Ross painting so that I could rewatch it again because it goes so fast. I was like, slow down, Bob, slow down. I have more happy little trees that need to get done here. I'm not ready for your reflection yet in the water. So
Happy little trees.
yeah. So yes, I have always loved watching people paint.
No, and it's so great. And I think that like when I was painting that mural, I was such a during the time. It was like right after the holidays. You had all the stress of like Halloween and Thanksgiving and family and more holiday stuff. So it was right after that, and then I was able to paint this mural, and I'm like, oh, there's something about just like the movement is slow.
Yeah.
I put like a TV show or music on, and you just go in. And then honestly, I did that for like a week, and I don't think I ate anything because when you're in the groove of painting, you just kind of forget anything else exists around you, and you just like keep going, which I think I had sometimes needed to have like a timer being like, it is lunchtime, or it is, you know, you've been already painting for 6 hours. Just you need to take a break. You need to go to the bathroom and grab some water and hydrate yourself, because you can just go about doing this all day. It just so there's something about it. So I think after that experience of painting, and it looks so good in my opinion, that I'm like, oh, I just want to keep doing this. Like I love it. I want to make people as happy as I am when I walk down my hallway. Yeah. And that for me and my goal in my murals and like my illustrations is like, I want to bring joy to people when they walk into something. I want someone to walk in just like here in the green room, walk and be like, oh yes, like this is awesome. I'm so hyped. Like this is great. So yeah. And then that was like a year and a half ago. And then, I just kept on doing it. So like, I think there's something to doing something at your house. Like you never know where it brings you. And like maybe you'll start getting into lettering. Maybe you'll, want to do some more abstract shapes. Like I know someone that was like, oh, I want to make a mural. And she like taped up her whole like wall and those geometric shapes and just like pick colors she liked. And she did it. And that was a great entry point to like murals. And it's not hard. And it's like, it was just like fun. I am also getting distracted by watching Annica with her. I know you guys are too. How about everybody in here? Do you like watching that? But I think we did talk about like, let's see. We talked about like the challenges with the colors, but now like other stuff I want to talk to you about like things to consider while you're painting or when you are about to paint, or maybe even like the challenges like, I have in my notes kind of just like the weather for specifically outdoor murals. Like, you were telling me how you were doing, was it the basketball court or like maybe a truck and it was like 90 plus degrees outside. You're like, yeah, okay.
It can be very brutal. I think that in addition to like your body being influenced by it, sorry, I got to shake this for a second. In addition to your body being impacted by the weather, your paint can also be impacted by the weather. So there's a certain temperature under which you're not going to want to paint. And there's also a certain temperature above which you're not going to want to paint because your paint is going to get dried in to the brushes and stuff like that so quickly. So yeah, I definitely consider the temperature. I'm not a fan of summer painting, to be honest.
Interesting. I feel like that's when everyone wants to do a mural is summer, which depending on where you live could be pretty brutal.
If there's no shade, I feel like sick to my stomach.
That is something to consider when making that proposal too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my favorite time to paint is May, and it's a little bit of a gamble. Maybe it's going to rain.
Yeah, especially this May in the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's like every weekend it rained.
But July is, no, thank
that
you.
heat wave. Wait, one thing I wanted to say is like when you shook that bottle and you tapped it, it was just to get like access off of the paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that it won't like drippy drip or...
Yeah, it's
whatever
also
not.
to make sure that, so this has got like a little felt mop to it. So I'm just trying to make sure that, I'm not getting a lot of little like hairs sticking out around it.
Yeah.
So like I'll also like twist it a little bit when I do that to like get it back nice and
Got
neat.
it.
In the same way that you would palette a brush by
Yes,
wiping
yes,
it
you wipe the
against the
excess
side of
off.
a cup.
I will say, so this is about the hour mark, and I just kind of want to welcome anyone new that's coming here and bring us back up to speed. As you guys can see here, we have Annica here making a mural. We're in a different location than the normal Adobe Live here, guys. So we're making a mural, or she's creating the mural. I'm here just talking away. And so, oh my gosh, my train of thought. So we're here today, and this will be a week long process. Yesterday, we kind of talked about we have made a lot of resource guides. We talked about the types of paint we use. We talked about how to enlarge things, like how to put your digital sketch onto the wall, the different ways you can do that. Talked about spray paints. We talked about regular paint markers, which is what she's using right now. So if you want to hear more about that, go back to yesterday's link, which is also, I believe, on the YouTube page. But we also have the downloadable resource guides that will be on the chat for you and on the YouTube page of the resource guides of everything I just said, especially the supply list that she goes through, so that when you guys, for all the newbies that wants to try to take on a mural, which you should, you'll have a great way to start everything. And also we discussed a lot about client proposals and how pricing strategies, right? Like how she prices strategies different than the way I price strategies. So I'm not going to dive deep into that, but I found that mind blowing that she was doing it so different. So if you guys want to see how she does it and how I do it, go back to the first one. But no, it's been great. It's been so fun. And as you can tell, at the end of the week, by tomorrow, we'll have a fully finished hand-drawn mural by Annica, and it's going to look sick. And I hope you guys really like it too. I wanted to go back to the comments because now that we're in a new system, I actually have to use my computer a lot and look at it. But yes, Oliver, I will say, I agree with you, and I think this is what I was trying to say, but I can't think on my feet right now. Post the work you want to do, because if you post the stuff you don't want to do, because if you post the stuff you don't want to do, just know that's what people will want you to do.
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
That's just why personal projects are so important.
Yes, that's why. Yeah, you need to do personal passion projects to get what you want. Like, if I want to make something for the WNBA, they're not going to be like, I mean, I haven't done anything before for any kind of sports related companies. They're not going to be like, oh, you paint florals. Why would that be associated with the NBA? So I need to start making stuff that are associated with sports related content.
Totally. I mean, anyone is going to want to work with someone who's passionate about something that relates to their business or their brand. So yeah, finding ways, not only does it showcase your talent, but it also showcases your passion. People are working with people, so they want to know that you get them. And that just is an added measure of appreciation and security.
Yeah, no, totally. Axel asked, just a question. When you finish a mural, do you apply something to seal the paint?
Nope.
You hear that? We don't, no sealant whatsoever.
I know some people that will do stuff, exterior will put a coating on it, especially if it's perhaps an anti-graffiti coating.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That stuff is, I think, challenging to work with and a bit, and then you have the problem of what if you want to go over it someday? And I don't know how one fixes that. If you apply an anti-graffiti coating, how do you unapply it?
Oh,
one day. Idea. So I don't know. It's not something I have ever explored. And certainly for interior murals, the paint is certainly durable enough that you don't need to worry about it. It's just like any other wall.
And we did talk about like the different finishes of the paint in the last stream between like satin, high gloss, and like matte, and like when best case use scenarios for that. So feel free to check that out. But what?
Something I didn't mention yesterday is that it's you can paint something that's higher gloss over something that's a lower gloss, but it's harder to do the other way around. You get like some
Interesting.
weird results
But
sometimes.
in what scenario would you want to paint higher gloss over a lower gloss or matte kind of finish?
I mean, that's how I like, it's just an aesthetic style that I like. But I'm even just thinking if you're coming into a space and there's currently the wall is painted whatever color the wall is painted and you need it to be painted yellow and you want to be working with like a satin finish or an eggshell finish, but the wall is already high gloss, that could be really challenging. So you might want to scuff it up a little bit, like roughly with some sandpaper or something to take a little bit of that sheen off. But if it's the other way around and you're painting something that's a higher gloss over what was already there, that's lower gloss, that's usually less of a problem.
Interesting. You wouldn't, okay. That's good feedback. I will say talking about more about like, kind of like things to consider when painting and challenges on a job, you know, like when you are, I don't want to say like brief, but when you're like when you're asked about doing a mural and you want to know more about the actual wall, you told me that you had clients take pictures for you so that you can see kind of like the area. But there's a story you mentioned, you talked about how they took a picture, but then at the end of the day, when you came to the actual site, there happened to be a big staircase in front of it. And you're like, well, then that's not great.
I don't know that I actually saw a picture. They just said, we have a wall. It's a hallway. There's this cool circular cutout in the wall, like that would be opposite where you're painting. So we would like your design to fit within this circle. It's great. That sounds really cool. So like if you were in it was like a meeting room. If you were in the meeting room, on the other side of the hallway, you'd be able to see the mural through the circle. And then I arrived, and what they neglected to mention was that there was also a floating stairwell that like went up directly through the middle of the circle. So that was definitely, that job took a lot longer because then I ended up trying to do that like intense perspective thing where I was like, okay, well, if you are standing here at reception and you look through the glass wall into the meeting room on the other side, if you're like exactly this tall,
oh my goodness,
then I painted a piece of the mural onto the stairs so it would line up perfectly.
Did you have to ask for more, like, because that was more labor?
Sure was, but I have a hard time asking for more. I don't believe I did.
But I think you showed me a picture of that. I forget if it was in your portfolio or Behance or Instagram, but I think it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It might be buried somewhere.
It might be buried somewhere. So if you guys find it, good luck. But I thought it was really cool. And it's very interesting. It's like that gives you, the moral of the story is just to like either get photos or go to a site visit, because you never know what challenges or what is like disruptive to the mural, like especially if the goal is to be viewable from like the meeting room and then you want something on the wall, just make sure there's like nothing in front of it that's blocking it. So I think that I like how I'm talking with my hands. So just like make sure that you get kind of like that site photo before you actually design or start painting, because I think that was very important. I think things to consider is just like also when you go see, like Annica and I were talking about it before about going to a site and being like, she likes going to a site more so after, like kind of like after things are decided. Right?
If I know that I'm not pitching for a job against other artists, like once I know I have the job and we've agreed on a range for the budget, I definitely prefer to do a site visit. I feel like this gives a lot of opportunity to involve the client, check out the space, and offer any sort of feedback or like ask some smarter questions that you might not thing to ask if you're just having a conversation on the phone. Like, what's the flow here? Like, what do you see first when you walk into this space? Where are people headed when they're like here? Or, like what else is going on around there? Or maybe, they thought they wanted a mural on one wall and you can pitch them on like, oh, maybe a different wall, or maybe you want to do something that's bigger, or what if we included this other piece? Or it just gives you a chance to have a much more sort of like exciting and in-depth dialogue with someone than you would do in a call or even with a Zoom. So I think that it helps everyone feel invested and excited. It also gives you a chance to really check out the space. Like, oh, I didn't realize there was going to be no windows. I should ask for a fan.
Yes. I will say that I know we have a different strategy on like our client proposals and stuff. So when I have gone to site visits beforehand, and know actually a few murals that probably just more want pictures, because it does take time out of your day to go down there and talk to them. But
sure,
I do like talking one-on-one to them and really seeing the space, because there are opportunities in different areas of the place. Like I just did a walkthrough in this one place, and she was like, oh, like I just was thinking of a mural in this area. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, that's great. Like, I think it's awesome. Like, it's viewable from the street. And then I was like, oh, I can really see like this room kind of life, like having a little bit of elements sprinkled through the next wall. And she's like, yes, that's great. I love that idea. And then, like kind of like walk through the stuff. And then I think we went through a back room, and I was like, oh, what's this room? She's like, oh, it's just a party room. I'm like, oh, like, look at this. This is a party room. Yeah.
Yes.
And she was like, I was like, oh, there's like a great opportunity to like do a mural here too. Like, what are you thinking? And she was like, oh, like I was thinking of just doing like a vinyl of my logo. And I'm like, well, that's great too. And I'm like, but like, let me know. Like, I'm happy to, talk more about this down the road. Like after we do this mural, like I'm totally into like making this something really cool. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm totally down for it. Like, add that to the proposal, or like, what do you think this is? So I think there is, I think there's something to like, like I get not wanting to go to an actual site and just having like clients email you kind of like the specs and like how much they're going to coverage or the coverage of the area. But there is something to like talking, especially if it's like a small business, maybe. Sometimes private homes can help, but with a small business, it's nice to go in just to really like, get the lay of the land and really understand the flow of like where people are going, where people are looking, like how people are going to see this mural. And then if there's also like other opportunities that you can bring the brand in into the actual area. So I think that's great. And I do agree with like trying to go in, although we just like have different timings and in our pricing strategies and like our proposal stuff. But yeah, so that is something to consider when, like you guys are going out and you want to, like pitch to a client. I think, as a beginner even, or even as an expert, an experienced person, like it's really good to go to the client. I think it's good to go to client for a site visit, but up to you. At least just get photos and get specs, because that's like very, very important.
Yeah.
But like talking about like things to consider, there was like a mural I did, and I was talking to you about earlier, where I did like a bathroom wall, and I went to visit the house, and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. It was great. You can see it from the way I looked at it is like you could see it from her bedroom door inside the bathroom, and she wanted the mural against kind of like the wall. And she had this, she had her walls of her house a really like bold blue. I feel like it's like paradise blue or something, that's Home Depot. And so it's a really specific color. And so like I wanted to make sure, and this is where colors come in, I wanted to make sure the colors really reflected well against that main color of her bedroom, so that when you looked at it from the bedroom, it was like complementary, and it really worked well and like tied into everything. And then when you walked in, we had sprinkles of that color, but like in different values, so that it still had that theme of her bedroom and going into her bathroom. So there's just like so things smart to consider. Like you just like want something. It's you want like that through line, right? And so then when I go in a bathroom, I'm like, okay, cool. Like That's great. I'm like, and then I noticed like the way that her room was set up, and her toilet was like, there was like an indent, almost like a 2 foot indent of where the toilet was. So there was like this 2.5 foot wall like behind her. And then, which wasn't a part of the mural. And then, across to that was like the double sink and like the vanity mirror. So like, when you go to the sink and like wash your hands, you just see like a blank wall. My thought was, oh, this is an opportunity that like maybe you can put like extend the mural across behind the toilet so that when you're at like like doing makeup or washing your hands or something, you have that extra pop of color. So if you look at my Instagram, you guys can see there is a mural in there, and I have a video, and you can like see the reflection of the mural on this mirror, and it just like adds a little something to it. And I think like those are things you consider that you wouldn't have considered unless you went on kind of like to the site visit.
Yeah.
So I think there's just like a lot of benefits.
Yeah. I think it's really good for relationship building.
Yes, no, for sure. And then, yeah.
And in all honesty, I feel like what I've been freelance for 20 whatever years. And like my whole business is built on the relationships that I've built with clients. So I think even if you're losing half a day, I think that if it gets you more work down the line, it gets you better referrals, it gets you someone who's more invested in you and what you're doing, that can just be really important long term.
And I think like kind of creating relationships and creating connections with people goes a long way, because maybe this person might not be able to have that mural now, because there's been times where I've gone and they're like, oh no, like we don't have the budget for the mural, that they'll come back down and be like, but we have a friend that might have something, or another person. Or so I think just like creating that connection with someone, in general, overall in our world, we should definitely just keep those connections open and create a more, oh my gosh, I'm using connections like multiple times. But yes, at the end of the day, connections, important, go. And like also that's kind of like what we're doing here at Adobe Live, connecting like creators together, creating, the audience to be able to, be a part of like our conversation. So if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. But it just able to bring our processes to them. And that's a different type of connection. But I think like it's all about that at the end of the day, building that community and connection. But I'm gonna look. Oh, I looked just at the chat. I see Felix asked about, oh, can he get the markers from Amazon, or do you have to go? Oh, okay, cool. So yes, Felix, you can buy these markers on Amazon. But I think most of the stuff that I buy, I've always just mainly gone to the hardware store. So this is nice that it can conveniently come. I guess you did have Amazon order directly to here in case we needed more markers. So
you can get them at Blick too, Blick Art Supplies, or if you're in New York, Artists and Craftsmen, they carry them. But definitely call ahead, because when I tried to get some here, I found out someone had come in and bought all of the K60 black Crink mops from
Boo. I do agree with you.
I don't know if that's boo. I'm excited to see what someone's up to. If someone's up to something big.
But they didn't leave you any markers. What if you needed more?
Amazon. But okay, my first choice was your local art store. That is my first choice. But call ahead. Local art store, but call ahead. Local art store.
For sure. Always local businesses. There were a few questions that came from before this, but I think they have a little bit more time to consider, and I'm going to just share them now, and then maybe they can come on for the next stream so that we have an answer. But a few questions. Let's see. I'd love to learn more about the process of planning a mural. And I feel like overall this whole stream of this week is all about kind of like planning that mural from like conception to execution. So I think if
you're in the right place,
you're in the right place. So that's it. Okay, we answered that question. The next one is, I'd love to know more about their process from ideation to execution, and how do you deal with clients back and forth on design, concept, that skill?
Well, I think part of it is also sharing, chances are for your client, they have not hired a mural artist before, even if they are a larger business. It's quite possible that it's their first time working with a mural artist. So I share a lot of my process and my decision making with people. Like when I was discussing with Adobe whether or not the gradient was possible in the background, like we spent some real time talking about the technical obstacles that would come from that sort of decision. So I think that can be really important, is having like an open and honest discussion about the technical limitations of stuff. So some
Oh, we're back? Can you guys hear us? Well, okay. Well, what about the community? Can you please message us if you can hear us? Okay. I'm like kind of waiting. Oh, I'm on a delay. That makes sense. Woohoo! Okay, Wade says we're back, so I'm very excited. I actually kind of don't know where we lost you, but we will. No, I lost my train of thought. I think we were talking about clients and talking about the phrase, what is this design not accomplishing once you guys are going down the, like client proposal and like you have like these 2 rounds and like, or a round and then they kind of, like want to talk to you about changing maybe the illustration or like the mock-up that you have. So I think a really great way to phrase it is like, what is this design not accomplishing? And it shows that you are willing to make changes, but like you really want to understand more so what the client needs and like what you like, how to get to like that person's goals, right? And like what and achieve what they want at the end of the day. Like,
I will say this, if I'm getting feedback from an art director, I'm just doing whatever they asked.
That's fair.
They know.
That's fair.
When they say move this over to the left and drop this and then, like make this, no problem.
But yeah, no. So that was a question that came in from before. So I kind of hope that helps whoever asked that question. And then the third one was, I'd love to know how they ideate for a physical space. Painting seems like a no margin for error thing, and I'd love to know how they prepare before diving in.
Like ideas for the design? Is that what we're talking about?
I guess so, yeah. For like, yeah. I guess maybe they're thinking, and like if they're on right now, maybe the way I took it is like the canvas is so big.
Yes.
Like versus like, I think we've talked about this before, like having when you're painting or when you're in a digital Illustrator, you have a smaller canvas, right? This is a huge wall, and this is like not one of the bigger ones you've done bigger.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good question to ask. Okay. Or that's the question they were asking.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think that I'm considering first and foremost what methods are available to me for execution, meaning spray paint, bucket paint. What other sort of technical limitations am I going to have? Because I don't want to design something that's then a nightmare to figure out how to paint. I'm going to also consider what the budget is, and how much time I have to complete it. So if I have a very quick timeline, because sometimes people are like, oh, we're a new business and we're opening in a week and the wall won't even be built and ready for you until 3 days from now. And so like, you're going to have 2 days to get it done or whatever it is. I'm going to think about what I can accomplish within the time frame that I have. So the first thing I do is consider the restrictions. And then that might determine like, how precise do I want my design to need to feel? Like something like florals can be really nice because you've got a lot of leeway. Mm-hmm. You paint that flower wrong, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like you paint that A with the weight off, it does not look good. So I think that that's another thing that I would consider right away is like, what sort of margin of error do I want to have on this?
Would you say that lettering a mural would cost more than an illustration of a mural?
Potentially.
Yeah. I'm just curious because I guess you are right.
Not necessarily though. It depends on the illustration style. I mean, like that same wall that I did in my living room that I showed yesterday, that was pink with the big red poppies and the blue sort of leaves. If that same space had been a precise lettering piece, it would have taken me multiple days.
Yes.
I did that in 1 day.
Yes, which is insane.
It's like I didn't want to spend my whole weekend doing it. So yes, I consider all of the restrictions before I start designing. And I don't know. I mean, if you're anything like me, you like having some parameters. I'll also look at what paint do I have available already at the studio that I might want to use. Like, so it's nice to give yourself some sort of parameters. I feel like that helps. I agree that designing something totally from scratch can be really overwhelming. But then there's also, you want to consider who is going to be viewing it and also from where.
Yes.
I did one mural in a gym by my house, which was so great because they had floor to ceiling windows. And at night, as you're driving by, they would leave the lights on the mural. And so you can see it. So you wanted giant letters with a lot of energy. Anything small would have gotten lost. So yeah, consider who's seeing it and from where. I don't know, past that, then it's about like how much of your personal style are you bringing to it versus a client's.
Yeah.
You know, like it's always a nice, for me, like marriage of the two for the most part. But the more that I do, the more that I get people wanting to do something that's more my style.
Yeah.
But you got to have the style to show. It's like when you reach that point where people send you mood boards with your own stuff in it, you're like, I did it. I made a style.
As we're doing this mural, I kind of want to, I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm like curious as to like, why are you choosing the chisel tip to color in versus that what do you call that? A blotter?
A mop. I don't know why.
A mob?
Mop, M-O-P.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Okay.
It does not say that on here.
Okay.
So, but someone said it once in my presence, or also possible, I misheard them and it's called something else and I've been calling it mop for a while. Anyway, I am using the mop for my initial first one, but there's a lot of still like little bits of streakiness in it, especially as I pull a long stroke. So I'm using the chisel to go back in and do the touch-ups. If I were to use the exact same marker in the same spot, chances are I wouldn't.
Oh, you would make
I'd
it
end up
thicker.
making the line thicker, at least in some place. And then it's getting wonkier. And then the color might be uneven. So I'm trying to touch up predominantly in the lightest parts using a smaller marker.
Got it.
That's
okay. That makes sense. Like, and then are you putting like a lot of pressure?
no.
Oh.
So these will drip.
Oh.
And so I'm doing a little bit of blotting on there, but if I do too much, and like some of the markers need to be pumped. I don't know if you've experienced that,
No.
like with the Poscas.
Oh.
You know, like you go,
yeah.
well, first
No.
you shake.
Yeah.
Always keep shaking.
Oh, and you pump. Got it. Yes.
and then like you push it down and it like makes more flow out.
Yeah.
But if you do that too much, then like there's a ton flowing out.
Yes.
And then you're in trouble. And then you put it on the wall and it's dripping down the marker, it drips on the wall. So yeah, you don't want to put too much pressure. Better to do too little than too much.
That's fair.
And go back in and fix it later.
Sometimes I get very like smush, 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 smush. Get that
Oh, yeah.
paint out. And then boom, it like all comes out. So,
Yep. That is an unfortunate reality.
I know. It is. But no, it's good to know that you do this. And you have to wait till the paint is dry before you go do the second coverage.
It's better that way.
And you try to only do what? Like, do you only try to keep it to 2 layers of coverage or?
I mean, you want to do as few coats as you possibly can. And, you know, I think it's nice to see a little bit of the variation within the paint. I don't want it to be like super, super solid because you want to know this was hand done.
Yeah.
Steve Powers had a great sign on the outside of his shop that I think that said like mistakes cost extra. And I just loved it so much. It's like you want to show this was done by a human. And there's a certain amount of appreciation that comes with that. And just like a certain warmth too that comes with that, having that slight bit of variation versus a vinyl, which is very flat color.
We are past actually we have about less than half an hour, less than 30 minutes on this. I'm just going to review real quickly what we did for all the people that maybe are still on or that just popped on real quick. I hope you are enjoying our new location here. It is the green room of Adobe Live, and we have Annica here as you are witnessing right now, currently painting a mural. And so we have spent the day yesterday talking all over. She created a resource guide talking about the different paints, different ways to transfer your digital or your illustration onto a wall, whether it's projection, the grid method, the doodle method, the 3D, wait, no, not 3D, the VR goggles. And then what is the last? Oh, punch needle? Pounce needle. This is
not a needle, pounce
nope.
pattern.
This is
Here's
why.
a little wheel.
Here we go. Oh my gosh, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was. Is this the biggest? Can you zoom into that? That's like very small. No, hold on, real small. That's how small it is. Is this the biggest one, or is that the small one?
That's smaller than the one that I found yesterday when I just Googled it.
That's crazy. Oh, feels kind of relaxing. As I put it on my hand. So yes, so that's what we talked about yesterday. We have some resource guides, especially for like those starting out with murals or those who want to just like try to take the dive into murals. The resource guide there is to help you like start off. There's the different. We talk about the paintbrushes. We talk about spray paint. We talk about like the transferring, and then in the stream yesterday, we also talk about the client proposals and like pricing strategies between her and I, and just like the differences of like how she does it and we do it. So if you feel free to like go into the stream yesterday and like look at it, it's a lot really informative. I think the next 2 days are just all about, painting this mural, and you're here with us live, and feel free to ask any questions. We'll be here tomorrow so you can see the finishing product. And then that's about it. But I hope you guys are enjoying this process. We were talking about how it reminds us of Bob Ross. It's like happy. Oh, I want you to get to the. What are the doodles that you called? You didn't call them little doodles. They were the little
accent lines.
No, the little things coming out of the mic and stuff.
What did I call them?
You didn't call them doodles. You called them like doodads.
Oh, doodads. Yeah,
Happy
sure.
little doodads. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought that was funny.
You don't use that word?
I do. I've never used that word. It has never come out of my mouth until today. So maybe that will be in my vernacular now. A doodad. But I like that we're doing the Adobe part, so it's so great. It's so nice. But I did have a list of questions that I have. We answered a few questions that were asked before. If you guys have any questions, feel free to do it, and we'll answer it today potentially or tomorrow when we come back. There's things that like I want to talk about that I did in like my mural that like saved me a lot of physical pain, because I think as we talked yesterday, it is a really physical, like body intensive activity. You're not just like using your wrist or just fingers. It's like a whole body workout. You're going up and down the ladder.
Yeah.
You're like using whole body movements, or sometimes you have to be restrictive and like make sure you're going in a straight line so that you're tensing up certain.
Yeah, you're good. I'm just getting real close.
Certain muscles, so they get really sore. And Wade asked if there's any stretching or exercise regimen, and I will say I know you do yoga.
Yeah.
And she was there yesterday after. So, and I'm sure you're going to go tomorrow. I think it's, I know that one time I did a mural and I worked on it for like 10 hours. And that at night I went to bed being like, oh, like my heart hurts. And I kept being like, am I having a heart attack? Yeah, I know. I went there. And then I realized it was because there's a muscle in my back because I was doing huge strokes.
Oh, wow.
That was like so sore that it just like hurt when I laid down. And yeah, so that was not fun to figure out. But I was glad that I wasn't having like some sort of like heart episode or something. But that was just me going, really deep into what's wrong with me. But I tend to just like do like just typical stretches for your arms, for your back. I know that, when you go down, and I know Annica doesn't have it really low, but I've done a lot of lower stuff, which maybe now I won't do so much, but I actually use this like gardening foam little thing that you kneel on, because dude, like I cannot kneel on a hard ground surface, especially this one, which is like very hard. There's no give to it. So it's really nice to have that like cushiony thing. I think that was one of the best. Or actually, some people use knee pads.
Yeah, I've
I've
seen knee pads.
But I just don't like the way knee pads feel on me. So I just do like the gardening foam pad. So when you dig holes or whatever. I also like the platform ladder. That is something I have invested in because it gives you like a good like 3 feet and then like maybe a foot or a foot and a half wide that like you don't have to go up and down a stool, down a stool, up and stool. And so you can just go across and you'll just have that, that platform and you can go up higher. So that's kind of like little small things that I think make things fun and easier. And you realize as you're muraling what will make things easier. I actually saw, I don't know if anyone has seen this on some mural lists where they have like a fanny pack and like they have it connected to one of the like they have the fanny pack and they have like the paint holder that's like it doesn't open and they put the fanny pack belt over through the hoop of the cup so that it holds there so that you have both hands free.
That's wild.
Right?
That's wild. I mean, for climbing up and down a ladder,
Yeah.
I'm always like going up with one hand and then I've got like brushes tucked in my ponytail or in my back pocket and then they fall out and you're like, you're looking down from the top of the ladder. That's brilliant.
Right? So I saw that a few times on, I guess because I was like following muralists a lot, they gave with like the quick trips that they think that they like save their, I don't know, just the annoying little things like your hand gets cramped up when you're holding like that. Or if it's like, I don't want to pour it into a smaller bottle. I just want to just get it out. Like it's so big. I don't know. Anyway, so those are kind of my things that I've learned with my limited experience on murals that help me. But actually, I got a cough. Hold on. Did you hear that?
I don't have control.
I don't know the control. Sorry, guys, if you heard me cough. I've been talking a lot, and so my throat is getting real dry here. But there is a question I have here, and I have a few more questions for tomorrow too. But where is it? I want to say, like, out of all your murals, which one is kind of like your favorite reaction? I will say, like, I think we make murals for us, but like also like we make murals for other people or the business, and the one of the best things to see as a creator is like their initial reaction to murals. And I want to know if like there is something, one of them that like really you just like unforgettable moment.
Yeah. Well, because of the mural project that I do, You Are Not Alone murals, I've painted, I think I've painted maybe 10 murals for the project.
Oh, wow.
And this year when we were at the Seaport in Lower Manhattan getting ready, there's one wall that we repaint every year and it's 160 feet long and we've got about at least 10 artists on the wall, like each given their own section. And we were getting ready this year to do a new one. And so a couple of us were out there just priming all of the walls. And this woman stopped and she said, "Please don't paint over these."
What?
And she said, "I need these murals." She said, "I come here and I look at these."
Oh, that's great. That's great reaction.
Yeah. So that made me realize like what an impact public art can have like on a community.
No, I know. I think, a lot of in these communities and neighborhoods, like you never realize how much something can bring value, how much value can bring to a community. And I think like, I agree. I think public art is a need. And I think it's something where it just brings so much love. And I feel you on that. Like, that gave me the chills though.
I also always cry when I talk about that project.
Oh my God.
I mean, second favorite reaction was definitely my 5-year-old when he saw his like rainbow exploding banana
Rainbow exploding banana. Oh my gosh. If you guys want to see this rainbow exploding banana, definitely check out yesterday's feed. I don't know if you have it on your Instagram.
Oh, it's on the Instagram for
Oh,
sure.
it's on the Instagram if you want to see this exploding banana where her child art directed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. He couldn't decide in the new apartment. Did he want a banana mural or a rainbow mural? And he said both. I want both.
Both.
I was like, all right,
You got it.
I can accommodate.
I will say, I was talking about this yesterday, like, I would never think of this design if, like, I feel like children have such a great imagination. I'm like, man, who would have thought about a banana exploding rainbows out of its peel or something? But
To be honest, I don't think he came up with the way that they were going to be combined, and it's killing me because I can't remember who suggested it because
goodness.
I didn't either.
It's
I was telling
collaborative.
this story to someone else, and they were like, "Well, obviously, the rainbow just explodes out of the banana." I was
Obviously?
like, sure does, sure does.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. My memorable moment. I haven't really done too many, but there is one where I did do a mural for somebody's daughter's room, and it was a surprise. And it wasn't who I expected. So I love the reaction. So the daughter's grandmother was walking in, and they were like moving. And I was like halfway through the mural, and then she looks at it and she's like, "It's so beautiful." And then she starts tearing up.
Aww.
She's like, she's going to, like, my granddaughter's gonna love this. And just like starts tearing up at the thought of like her daughter seeing this beautiful mural. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, like this mural isn't even for you, and like it's for your granddaughter, and you have such an emotional reaction to it. It made me being like, oh my goodness, like I was like, yes, like, yeah, like this is a great reaction. I'm like, I don't want you crying, but like I want, but I'm so glad that you have such a connection to it. And it's
Yeah.
just like, this is like, this is like why I like doing it. I like bringing out these emotions and like happiness and joy. Not really tears, but if it's tears of joy, I'll take that. But I think that, there's something to be said about some of these murals. It's not like us trying to flex, like our skill. I mean, sometimes it is, but like at the end of the day, it's for people,
Yeah.
especially like for the person that you're, that's hiring you. Even if it's like a business is like, they want a reaction. They want
Yeah.
to make a visual impact when someone comes into their store. And they want like someone to be happy, or like whatever. Like if it's ice cream, they want to be like, wow, like I want that ice cream. Or like, wow, look at this. This is sick. Like, let me take a picture of the ice cream in my hand against this mural. Like they want it as a moment. Like it's all about moments. And I think that's what we're trying to create too when we're working with them. Just like an emotional moment. But yeah, I think that's what I like. I think that like it like it's kind of like, yeah, I will say like a not as big promoter of my mural work, and it's almost kind of like a little bit of like imposter syndrome, where you're like, I'm just not as good as all these other muralists or artists out there. But it's really, really uplifting and empowering when you like just show people and friends, and they're like, oh my goodness, like this is beautiful. And you're like, oh yes, like I'm very like, I just don't take compliments well, but like hearing that really like makes me feel more confident. And so like I think stuff like that too is great. And I don't know where I kind of went with that, but we also are almost nearing the end of our time here, guys, so I really hope you enjoyed it. I think Annika here is going to be continuing working on this, and then I know that we are probably going to still work on it a little bit more, and then we're going to finish this mural with us tomorrow. So hope you guys like chime in tomorrow to see what this finished piece looks like. And then if you guys want to chime into stream 1 and to learn about all the resource guides that we have there available to you, especially if you're like a newbie out there working in murals, trying to do that, really scared to take your dip your toe into that. I think Annika really made helpful guides there that will be available to in the chat and all through social media. I do think that the stream yesterday was really great in terms of like informational stuff. So feel free to go back to that day yesterday. And today has been so great. I think we also just talked about all the supplies that are going to come in. And all the supplies that she uses. I use like a different set of supplies. If you scroll through a lot of it, you'll talk about how the difference is. And like similar to any artist, like there's different techniques and different approaches to get the maybe not the same result, but like similar results. Like we talked about how this mono weight mop creates this like half an inch consistent kind of monoline work. But there is a brush out there, I believe, from Zebra that will achieve a very similar kind of look and feel. But so yeah, that's probably something I would use because I'm more comfortable with it. But she uses it because she's more comfortable with this. And, you know, like it's all up to preferences. So I think, you know, use these streams to help inform you guys. But like at the end of the day, once you get really into it and like you learn through process and feel like what is best for you. And so also through the first one, which I keep reiterating, we talk about like pricing strategies and client proposals. So like if you guys aren't sure how to talk to your client or how to set one up, I think it's a great stream to look at and like talk about our conversations because both of us have two different approaches of how we want to do that. And then I do want to share the overall theme of what we talked about is that you don't need a client to start muraling. You have a wall in your apartment. You have a wall in your house. Heck, maybe you have a driveway and you can start just using regular chalk just to see. But in general, you do have a wall. And like if you want to start muraling, start doing it and just start getting in there. Get used to the paints, figure out what works for you, realize that yellow paints and red paints probably don't work really well. And that you'll need many, 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 many layers.
Can I share a hot tip about red paint?
Yes. Sorry, I don't know if that was really loud.
If you paint gray as an underpainting, you just cut the number of coats you have to do in half.
Like a dark gray or light gray?
Medium to light gray.
Oh my gosh, I think that blew my mind because I have so many red florals out there. You guys don't realize how many reds I make. But anyway, so this is great. Everybody who's here, come with us tomorrow. We'll be finishing up this project in the green room so that by the end of the day, hopefully we'll be able to send shots of everything even done on Instagram.
Can you share what the questions are that are pending for tomorrow that we're going to answer tomorrow?
There's a few questions that we're pending. I mean, you know, like we're talking about more of like our both experiences in the mural world. Me, a little less seasoned, you more experienced, but like talking about like our favorite walls and maybe like the hardest wall or the hardest client that we have encountered and like how we solve that.
Sure.
We also talked about different inspirational muralists and like maybe a muralist that kind of inspired us, and then current muralists that we like really look up to or like feel inspired from, and like what's our dream wall or what's our dream mural? You know, like where would you want to do it? So I think we have a few of those questions, and if you want us to answer any more questions, feel free to answer on the chat. But I would like to thank everybody for coming in today. It was really great having everyone here. Really great watching Annica do all her mural work. And I can't wait to see the finished project. And I hope you guys come back tomorrow to finish it or see it. Ta-da! Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.